How's it going, everybody? This is Brian for Pop Culture Crossing, and today we are talking about The Martian, Matt Damon's space survival story. So, The Martian focuses on Mark Watney, an astronaut who, along with his crew, are on a mission to Mars. However, they get hit by a storm. Watney gets separated from his crew, hit with a piece of debris. His crew thinks he's dead. They leave in their escape pod, and he survives and must use his knowledge of science and his determination to keep living and attempt to make contact with NASA. Now, I had heard some things about The Martian before I had seen it. I didn't get a chance to see it in theaters, but what I heard primarily was, something about Matt Damon and space potatoes and, how he was like farming crops on Mars. So I had thought going into the movie that element was going to be one of the main story points for Watney and his survival. However, the farming aspect really only ended up being in the first 40 minutes of the movie. The rest of the movie focuses on how he uses other aspects of science and, his just adaptability to survive and attempt to contact his support teams back home. Now, the movie's cast is stacked, but in a good way. Damon is the centerpiece, but he is supported by Kristen Wiig, Jeff Daniels, Chiwetel Ejiofor, I have my notes here, Kate Mara, Michael Pena, Sean Bean, who for once it seems doesn't die in a movie, Sebastian Stan, and Donald Glover. And each of these actors provide strong performances for their respective characters. Despite, this strong ensemble seeming cast, it really doesn't feel like an ensemble type of movie traditionally would. For me, it felt like Watney was the clear, main point of stress for the movie. Yes, he was supported by other elements, but he was really the one that, took the cake, so to speak. There are several groups at play throughout the movie, though. So on the one hand, you have Watney, who is on Mars, and then you have his crew, who is still in transit in space, trying to get back to Earth. And then you have the space support teams. So you have NASA proper, and then you have the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. Now, you do have these two other groups, but Watney is the main focus. With these three groups, though, I did feel that the crew was the weakest, despite Jessica Chastain's strong performance as being the team leader and really exemplifying strong leadership skills. They were, the weakest in my opinion. But it is clear, however, that the way the movie was marketed, that Watney was the main character. This was evident in the tagline, "Bring him home," which was also on the posters. And, there was another tagline that said, "Help is only 140 million miles away." On the one hand, this kind of touches on the dichotomy of Watney being on Mars and then his support groups being on Earth and, the relationship there. But really, help is only 140 million miles away. That stresses the notion of isolation, and that was definitely how Watney felt. But I did find myself sympathizing with Watney's critical attitude and sarcasm toward the space support teams, particularly those in the NASA higher ups. They just seemed like they were more focused on framing the situation to the public in a certain type of way, and that they were more concerned with optics as opposed to, making, quick decisions in an attempt to bring Watney home. Related to that was Donald Glover's character. When he wasn't on screen very often and didn't, sadly, had little screen time, but what he was given, he did a great job with. And his character was really the one that devised the plan that NASA ended up implementing in an attempt to rescue Watney. But sadly, he doesn't really get credit for that. He's kind of an eclectic character of what we see of him. He works in one of the labs, but when he's pitching the story to the NASA bosses, they're pretty rude to him, and they're just essentially a bunch of jerks. But they end up using his plan, and they, at least in the movie, they didn't credit him for it. Now I can only comment on the story as it was projected through the movie. This is a movie review after all, but The Martian is based on a book of the same name. But despite its space topic, it felt like it had its own legs and that it was unique, especially compared to some of the other recent space films like Gravity or Interstellar, or the more decidedly sci-fi movie Prometheus. The Martian really didn't feel derivative or hackneyed compared to any of those, really. And in my opinion, this is both a testament of A, the story, and B, the directing by Ridley Scott, especially considering the fact that he was the one that directed Prometheus just a few years before The Martian's release. Now, one of the big things that I really appreciated in the movie was how they approached and communicated the science. Watney uses like a webcam type of thing for doing video logs, and the way that he uses that as an aside or breaking the fourth wall and explaining what he's doing was very informative. And he uses these complex scientific practices, but he explains them in a way that is accessible to a wide audience. You don't have to be a specialist in that field to know what he was talking about. That they communicated that fluidly, and that's a testament to the writing and directing as well. Now, the production design, the CGI, and the cinematography are all terrific. The spacesuit designs, the space vehicles, and the little space center, space pod location that Watney was living in on Mars all look great, and they have unique color palettes that kind of set them apart from these other recent space movies. The CGI and cinematography, the cinematography just had these great landscape shots of the desert and, the Martian landscape. I believe they shot some of those in Jordan and Arizona, but the way that they translated these actual terrestrial deserts into being, what we would think Mars would look like was awesome. And it really did look like what you would think Mars would look like. And if the CG elements that they used in some of those scenes, I'm sure they did, but they were blended so well that they didn't really stand out to me. The soundtrack and score are also excellent. Harry Gregson Williams composed the original score, and it features both atmospheric orchestral elements as well as regal brass elements, and that helps convey beautifully the sense of space and isolationism and survival, but it doesn't do so in a way that is blatantly sci-fi. And the music also features soundtrack elements, namely like the Happy Days theme song, several disco songs, Starman by David Bowie, and other songs are included. And the Happy Days theme and the disco music specifically are addressed throughout the story at several points. And, those songs really provide a sense of grounding and memories for Watney, and it's kind of a way that he can vicariously live back on Earth, even though he is light years away on Mars and by himself. So overall, The Martian is an enjoyable movie. It is well acted, it has great direction, and the visuals are stunning. I would highly recommend you check it out, and it really does seem to stand on its own compared to, these other, it's like a mini science, space age revolution movies going on here, but it really does feel unique in its own right. And one of the biggest takeaways for the movie was this lesson that Watney communicates throughout the whole movie. And it's, no matter what problems may hinder you or come across your path, always, stay positive and don't be encumbered by them. Instead, start thinking and adapt and figure out a way on how you're going to overcome those problems. And, that's a lesson that we could all learn and use in our daily lives. So I hope you check out The Martian if you haven't already. If you have, comment below and let me know what you thought of the movie. Did you think that Damon truly was the sole star of the movie, or did you think that it really did feel like an ensemble movie? Let me know below. Hit me up on Twitter or in the YouTube comments here. I'll be watching those. Please also check out my written review. It has a little more detail, and that is available at popculturecrossing.com. And I appreciate your support, and please, please, please like and subscribe. Like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get a custom URL, and I appreciate your support. So thanks for watching. Bye.